If Baylor and Utah really think that BYU tampered, they can just put their money where their mouth is and sue. Heck, you can all sue BYU. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Baylor crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. It's Cameron Stewart from Locked On Baylor. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Where we start, your favorite Big 12 team could just sue your least favorite Big 12 team. That's exactly what's happening across the country. Now we had that whole snafu with the kid who was in Miami and Wisconsin, wanted to play for one or the other, and the University of Wisconsin has filed a lawsuit against Miami for tampering. So Baylor, Utah, if you really think BYU did the whole tampering thing, put your money where your mouth is and sue them. We'll start there. We'll also get to Athlon's terrible. Athlon Sports today, terrible preseason Big 12 rankings. They hate everyone. And Kansas State's winning the championship, the national championship. Also, recruiting from five-star quarterbacks to teams that are in the middle of the pack but are okay with being in the middle of the pack. Recruiting looks really, really solid in Big 12. We'll break it all down. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Again, I didn't even tease this. I just kind of read it. Yahoo Sports, landmark moment. Miami is being sued by Wisconsin for tampering because Xavier Lucas wanted to leave Wisconsin, break a contract, play for Miami. He did it. He just unenrolled and decided to go to Miami, and Wisconsin said, whoa, that's tampering. We're taking you to court. So if I hear all this complaining about how, Texas A&M stole my, BYU stole my, if that is the case, this now sets the precedent. Just sue the other school for tampering if you really think they did.
Yeah. And I think the bigger landmark moment of all of this, Drake, was really, before we get into it, was how I found out about this, because this was quote tweeted by one of the great Twitter names of all time, which is Gary Fatterson. So I can't, I'd be remiss if I went through this experience without bringing up the fact that Gary Fatterson was the one that pointed me towards this. It's pretty interesting. This is one we've talked about quite a bit. And it does highlight the classic Drake Toll take that the transfer portal doesn't exist and that tampering doesn't exist and that nothing exists, that we're all in a simulation right now. I would love for Baylor to sue BYU. I just think that would be hilarious over the Rob Wright situation. And I think when you go into most of these, especially in an intra-conference transfer, almost all of these have tampering. In fact, I'd go as far as saying probably just about every major transfer in basketball and football has tampering. Every single quarterback that's transferred, there's been some sort of tampering. So I would love for this to happen. And clearly Utah is going to jump right on this. Like Utah hearing BYU and the chances to take them to court, they are all over this. I just don't know how it holds up though.
Yeah.
Because what is tampering is then the next question that we need to tackle. I think it's kind of like what they said about PORN in the Supreme Court. Like we know it when we see it, right?
Sure.
We kind of know tampering when we see it, but do we have a nailed down definition of what tampering is? The kid could have heard it from his old vacation Bible school teacher who said, oh yeah, they would actually take you at this kind of price. At least that's what I'm hearing. And that's not tampering, right? A coach can go to somebody else, the running coach for this guy's off-season regiment in his hometown. Right. Coach can call this guy up, tell him, hey, this is what we're going to do. And that guy tells the quarterback, that's not tampering. You know what I mean? That doesn't fit within tampering. So I would love to get this nailed down and actually, see what tampering is and eliminate it. But it's so broad that I don't even know if a court of law can figure this out.
I've been watching. I have a Samsung TV, Rich.
Wow.
And when you turn it on, it has 7,000 automatic channels, and they none of them make sense. They're all really just funny networks that rerun. There's the Family Feud channel that does nothing but all day of Family Feud. And recently, it's still the same one. We
could do a whole segment on these, by the way. I can't get carried away. I have 4 that I want to bring up, but I love that kind of that part of television. There's random channels with random shows. There's a bus in Evanston that advertises replays of Seinfeld, reruns of Seinfeld on something called The U at 10:30 Eastern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seinfeld's on TV. I didn't know that.
Recently, the channel, it was on the Duck Dynasty channel for a long time, which was just endless reruns of that. Recently, I have been on
Love that.
Evil Killers is the name of the network, it caught my eye because I thought, as opposed to the kind ones or the gracious killers, right. those who are just enacting justice. These are the real scum of the earth.
I think there is a self-defense channel. I think if you search long enough.
I was watching today, and they had arrested this guy in the UK. By the way, people from the UK, by and large, look interesting. Not always bad. They just have this look about them sometimes. And I'm watching, and this guy has, I mean, obviously he's murdered the lady, but they can't find the body. And so me, devil's advocate, I'm looking around the house like, they can't charge him with murder because they can't prove that he murdered the lady. There's no body. There's no way. Okay, her fingerprints are there. Yeah. And also he's a sexual assaulter. He's done a lot of bad things. He's killed other people, but they can't prove he's killed her until they find the body. And that's kind of what tampering is. You don't. Where's the body? Oh no, Kalani Sitake shook the hand of an opposing player after the game. Must have been giving him money to come play for BYU. I just don't know. We would need a jury of our peers beyond reasonable doubt to tell me that somebody's tampered.
Yeah, you don't have a body. You do not have a body. The body in this situation would be a direct call from Kalani Sitake to player X, right? Or
by the way, I mean, we really got to have it's got to be. You have to have that call recorded. It has
That's your body. That's your body and your smoking gun right there. But you don't have that, and you're not going to have that. And I wonder if this gets even muddier now with the revenue sharing and because we still don't know. Remember, we don't know what these contracts look like for these players that sign in. Obviously they've had NIL deals in the past. That was the situation with Lucas in Wisconsin and Miami. They said, hey, you signed an NIL deal. You can't leave. And then he's like, there's nothing tying me down to that. Yeah. And we're still waiting to see what that looks like in rev share too, whether there's going to need to be buyouts or like with a coach. And so we have this is the opportunity to kind of nail this down before we get into revenue sharing. But if not, this could get even worse over the next couple of years where you've got like employer contracts rather than NIL contracts, and yet they still don't hold up. Like this could get even messier before it gets clearer. This is just the first domino to fall. But I think BYU becomes the subject of this. Certainly, Texas Tech might become the subject of this with just how much talent they brought in the transfer portal. Like anybody that brings in that much talent, you've got to ask some questions. That's just the nature of our espionage college football ways. So a couple of Big 12 teams I think would be sweating a little bit if Wisconsin wins this case.
Yeah.
What do? You just send the kid back?
Send him back.
Does he get paid? Does the school get paid back that NIL deal? Like, what does that look like? I don't know. This is for the future.
If I work at Fox and ESPN calls me and offers me $1 million more, I would take that. Mm-hmm. Is that tampering? What do we, where do we draw the line?
You would be under a contract.
Making more money? I mean, yeah, if I break contract. Also, I have this koozie that I got from the Public Well when I went down to the game at Utah, Rice Eccles. It's got the 2024 schedule. Things didn't go very well. What I realized, I had a commenter the other day, was like, hey, every time you turn that koozie up, the bottom side of the koozie says BYU sucks. So every time you drink, which... There are a couple BYU fans who tweeted at me or like, you claim to be nice to BYU, but then this happens. Like, dog, I didn't. That's funny. That's clever.
That is funny. I think most people would appreciate that.
I'm sorry. Coming up, Athlon hates your Big 12 team. Locked on Big 12, Locked on Baylor. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Why is it brought to you by FanDuel? Because FanDuel's where I go to make money. NBA playoffs? Yeah. Made a ton of money on that. March Madness, for sure. Even college baseball with summer sports in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You know, why not make it thrilling? Why not make it thrilling with $200 they get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Yeah, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers. I mean, you've seen this before. But right now, there's no better time to get in on the action. Same game parlays. Watching a bet right into the 9th inning or that final shot on 18. Open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Download the app. Athlon Sports. I don't even know who they owned by. I couldn't even tell you the last time Athlon Sports came up for me.
I mean, based on this article that we're about to reference and reading it, they might be owned by ChatGPT.
It's crazy. They have ranked their Big 12 teams. They're a magazine. That's okay, which doesn't happen. People don't do magazines anymore. They have Kansas State at number 1 in the Big 12 going into next season. Quarterback Avery Johnson. And as we all know, the offense whisperer Matt Wells.
Sure, yeah. We knew when he made that move. We were like, watch out for Kansas State. Yeah.
You and I hosted a radio show together when Spavital was hired as Baylor's offensive coordinator, and the initial rumors were Matt Wells, and we were pulling our hair out, being like, no, if anyone's learned anything, you don't have to hire Matt Wells.
Really, it's not. Some people think it's like this requirement. It's really not.
They have Kansas State at 1, Arizona State 2, Texas Tech 3. I don't think I have Kansas State in my top 2. I think Kansas State will be good. I like Avery Johnson. He's not the Heisman Trophy winner that we were promised yet. Could he be? Sure. Not yet. Iowa State at 4. They lost a lot, by the way. The Baylor Bears at 5. Which I think, by the way,
yes, it does. It does. And I will defend their honor in a second. But I think the thing that kind of stood out to me in this top 5 in the list was like, I also think I'm probably right with you. I think Kansas State's going to be good. I don't have them as 1 or 2 in this conference. And even with what Iowa State lost at wide receiver, I still have not found something where I'm like, yeah, Kansas State's definitely better than Iowa State.
Good. That's a great point.
Like that's just where I kind of come back to. And I often don't bring up Iowa State because I do the Baylor show and I think Baylor is a legitimate chance to win the Big 12. Tech brings in all this talent. Arizona State's the defending champs. And we kind of lose Iowa State in that shuffle. Utah, by some people in Vegas, they think they're going to win the whole thing. But I just keep coming back to, I don't think Kansas State's better than Iowa State. I don't think Kansas State or Iowa State is better than Baylor.
They get lumped together pretty much every year. It's always just, all right, Kansas State, Iowa State. They are.
We don't know much about them, but they're typically good under this coach. Yeah,
corporate wants you to find the difference in these 2 pictures, and they're the same picture. This is the same.
Dublin, Ireland will have no idea the difference.
It's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing.
They're both good. Yeah,
they're both very, very good with coaches who are going to be there for the rest of their lives, and they have compliment to you. Both of those programs, they have a bunch of 3-star players who become really good at college football and can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the country. And that's on development. Development's great. Mentioned Baylor at 5, Dave Aranda and the Bears. BYU at 6. Here's what I do think AI probably made this list. They say, after all, they have returning starting quarterback Jake Retzlaff. Right, guys? Right? It says BYU. The problem is, besides quarterback, the Cougars are going to need to deal with massive roster turnover at other positions.
That's the problem. That's the real problem facing BYU right now, outside of quarterback.
If I was AI, if someone said, hey, Drake, I need you to tell me what the Maryland football season is going to look like in 2025. Like, massive roster turnover in certain positions is just a really good slap it on there.
Got to win their home games.
Yep. They've got the who was the kid they had? Who was their quarterback they had? He had a last name.
Yeah, Tua's brother, Tagovailoa.
Tua's brother.
Not Uiagalelei.
Yeah. And maybe he's back, maybe he's not. I don't know. Maryland.
I don't think so.
Maryland's like the Colorado, like the 15 years of Colorado we saw where it was like, I forgot about them. That's just what Maryland football is. And forgive me, they have a couple years they win 9 games.
Right. Yeah.
You just would never know.
Playing bowl games on December 20th.
They're like perennial bowl team, probably. Yeah, I usually expect to watch them in the postseason.
That's a bad look for the Big Ten, by the way, because they're never in the Big Ten discussion, but they're always in a bowl game for the most part.
They're really good at being 6-6.
They're not quite Iowa.
Athlon doesn't like BYU. They do like Utah, which is a weird thing to say because they have Utah behind them. Utah at 7. New offensive coordinator Jason Beck is going to be the reason why with Devin Dampier. And
coordinator, man,
if any of us have learned anything, when you bring in a mid-major quarterback who was a star at his previous school and you give him a big fat NIL deal, it usually works out, right? DeQuan Finn was just a star this last year.
Can I just give a warning about this to the Utah fans? Like, DeQuan Finn was better than Devin Dampier was before making this jump. Devin Dampier's younger. He might have some more room to grow. Okay, don't shoot the messenger here. But DeQuan Finn was better. And you're going to use these moments of like, oh, Devin Dampier played really well against, this Power 4 team. DeQuan Finn played pretty well against Notre Dame and Ohio State. And you guys, you Utah fans, saw this up close and personal last year, what that looks like in the Big 12, what DeQuan Finn looks like in the Big 12. I'm just saying. I'm just warning you.
Utah and UCLA will kick off August 30th at 11 p.m. 11 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much. College football is so back. We're 9 Saturdays away. 8, the Kansas Jayhawks. 9, TCU. Not music to your ears, but I think TCU is a sneaky top 5 team in the Big 12 this year.
I think TCU is much better than 9. Yeah. I don't like how much I've kind of been talking, because I don't think TCU is a great team. I think they still have a lot of holes. But I do like Josh Hoover. I mean, the guy had no running game last year, and he threw for almost 4,000 yards. Like 0 running game, and not a terrific defense either.
Savion Williams is good, by the way.
He is good. So I don't know. They have obviously the middle of this conference is a crapshoot, but like to me, what I've looked at from these teams from last year and where they are on paper this year, I think TCU is better than Kansas. I think they're better than Utah. And if it really goes off the rails for BYU, which we've said it probably won't, but if it really goes off the rails for BYU, I think they're better than them too.
I like Josh Hoover. Shout out to his sister who worked in Waco for a while as well.
Fox 44 alum.
Colorado at 10. That's the one I'm like, yeah, okay. Houston at 11. They could be a 6-6 school this year. I like Willie Fritz. I think
they're better than Colorado.
I think Houston's kind of on that Matt Rule Baylor trend of by year 3, you're going to think, oh, wow, they put it together. This is Houston's good.
If Connor Wegman is kind of like half the hype that they gave him at A&M, that's a much improved Houston team. Like that defense was pretty legit. They just had absolutely nobody at quarterback. All due respect to Zion Chris, of course, diced up TCU, but that was a really pretty good defense, almost elite defense that just had nothing offensively. So if Connor Wegman's a decent quarterback in this conference, yeah, they should be better than Colorado. And I could see them as a 6-6, 7-5 team, which is a hell of an improvement.
Law of averages. Somebody has to go 7-5. Don't be upset.
True.
Cincinnati at 12. That's too high for me. Oklahoma State at 13. This is like the fire the coach territory.
Yeah.
This is we can't keep going with Gundy. We can't keep going with Satterfield, who probably should have already been fired. West Virginia at 14. I see them sneaking into that 10 or 11 spot. Honestly, don't know why. But
me neither.
Just something about the colors, something about the brand. Arizona 15, UCF 16. And I hate this. I personally, while he was the coach, liked Gus Malzahn. UCF had some good. They had the kid with the leg. He was a really good kicker. They had KJ Jefferson. They were sneaky 9-3 for me last year. I thought they would beat Utah, finish 9-3. Then they really sucked. And I hate this. I've been to a game there. I watched them blow like a 28-point lead in the fourth quarter to Baylor to save Dave Aranda's job. Would have been 2-10. I think they might go 2-10, 1-11.
Which we did bring this up last week. That could mean UCF to the national championship game, which would be their second national championship appearance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
They're pretty bad though. They're really bad.
Jacksonville State, NCAA. I have confidence there. After that, ooh. Sorry. It's just, but Scott Frost, it'll happen. Give it time. Patience for the tide.
That's the thing with West Virginia about UCF real quick. They both brought old coaches back. Both those programs will give them some grace. I mean, obviously they're not going to fire them after 1 year, no matter what, but like they are going to give these guys some time to build it up, which I think is going to be fascinating to watch in 2 or 3 years, just not this year. They both suck.
Recruiting in the Big 12 is really good. Locked on Big 12, locked on Baylor. Don't look now. From BYU to Baylor, even the schools that are kind of the middle of the pack, recruiting in the Big 12 kind of rocks. 2026, now that we're all the coach you've never heard of, who's the assistant D-line coach, who keeps tweeting GIFs of like your dancing mascot or sirens or things. You're like, what would this mean? The Big 12 is getting a lot of those. They're getting a lot of GIFs from the coaches you never heard of. Kansas, Arizona State, even Iowa State. Which I've been to Ames. I've seen a game there. It's awesome. But I've said it a million times. Like, I now understand why you would go play football at Ames, but it's going to take a specific type of player to give up on playing in Miami, or to give up on, if you have an offer like, hey, you can come play in beautiful tropical Boca Raton. Like, wow, Boca's pretty awesome. Just in any of the beach cities in Florida. I am surprised pleasantly that those three teams, Kansas, Arizona State, Iowa State, have done so well. And I'm really not that upset that like a Baylor or a BYU sits in the middle of the pack, because guess what? In recruiting, that's not all that foreign for those schools. And that's kind of what they do to win.
Yeah, I mean, that those are two programs, and I would put TCU in there as well, that don't mind living right in the middle of the conference pack, at best being top 30, probably not top 20 ever, and still being able to develop guys. Now, of course, this is going off of mostly Gary Patterson and some Sonny Dykes. This goes off Matt Rule and a little bit of Dave Aranda, and Kalani Sitake has had a pretty damn good track record of doing it at BYU. Yeah, those schools don't mind being in the middle there. Two of them, Baylor and TCU, were in the top 3 of last year's recruiting rankings in the Big 12, but they don't mind sitting there. And there's specifically, I'll talk about Baylor BYU here, where their roster's at in 2025. They don't mind sitting there in the kind of middle of the pack. They're both recruiting from hotbeds. Obviously, Baylor from Texas, BYU a lot from California, rather than some Utah as well. But they don't mind sitting there in the middle. They know they can find diamonds in the rough in those places.
BYU also we're a couple days, we're tomorrow away from Ryder Lyons announcing where he'll play his college career, which a lot of people are mostly Utah fans. I think, if I can deduce who keeps commenting about it, are like, oh yeah, well, he's going on mission, so he's not even going to be even good when he comes back. And like, this is a waste. What? But yeah, the fact that he is going on mission, which he's made it pretty clear, like that's the goal here, is to play college football in like 2027. I don't think Oregon, Dan Lanning doesn't seem like the kind of guy compared to Kalani Sitake. It's going to be like, yeah, go, praise God overseas or wherever for a year. Not to say Dan Lanning.
That's what Novosad's been doing, right?
Oh, not to say Dan Lanning wouldn't embrace the LDS Church. It just, does it make a little sense that BYU embraces it a bit more?
Yeah, or the fact that, I think Dan Lanning's got pretty good job security, but we know in college football, he's like, I might not be the coach in 3 years, 2 years, whatever this kid wants to play. So I'm making a commitment here, as he's making a commitment to me. That's a roster spot. And that if anyone who's seen Rudy, how big those roster spots are on a college football. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily prevents him, but absolutely it's a more welcoming environment at BYU. Like in that sense, like they know how this works. They've probably got some damn good resources for, an athlete going on his mission and staying in shape and staying with some sort of regimen or whatever. I think BYU probably has a better grasp on that than Oregon does. But by the way, BYU will skyrocket up when this Ryder Lyons commitment hits.
True.
They won't be in the middle of the pack anymore.
Believe that it will. The guy is a legacy at BYU. He is one of the best quarterbacks in his class. I think he's been overlooked. Still a 5-star. But an overlooked 5-star because of the whole mission thing.
It's a detractor for a lot of places.
Yeah, but sorry, he loves God. Like, our bad. Sorry, he's really good at football and loves God.
And Ryder, look, if it doesn't work out at BYU, there's another place in Big 12 that loves God. Just letting you know.
TCU? Texas Central University.
It's as big or as little as you want it to be.
That's great. Did you know it? So this may be news for people that even for some TCU fans, that's what they say at Baylor's orientation. You walk in and they go, "Hey, we're unapologetically Christian." It's the first thing you learn. You're like, "Wow, all right, cool." You sign up for. Now, not to say there aren't fireball shooters at Scruffy Murphy's on Friday night. Like things happen. Baylor and BYU both are very clear that we are evangelical. We are universities that stand on faith. And you walk into TCU's their little admissions deal before you commit, as you visit their school. Like, hey, dog, Texas Christian. Like, we get it. That's really it. But that C is as big or as little as you want it to be. That's their line. That's the line they use. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine you're like an 84-year-old donor. You were there when Slinging Sammy Baugh was tossing the rock, teaching people the forward pass. And you grew up at the First Baptist Church, Fort Worth, which has gotten way too big, and they're playing the rock band stuff now. They don't do the hymns anymore. And now your beloved university has just actively turned from God.
I can imagine it's not great because I know how it would work at Baylor if that were the case.
I had a call with somebody at Baylor this week. So they're selling beer at the Boys from Oklahoma show, which this is a big step for Baylor. They're having Cross Canadian Ragweed, who dropped
at the stadium, right? The football.
It's in McLean.
Okay, I didn't know if it was there at the arena.
Ragweed dropped the word in one of their songs. Shouldn't mention the word on this show. And
not this month, no.
They're being invited with Turnpike Troubadours and Shane Smith, who I love, all really good bands. And Baylor's going to sell beer. They are also in talks with other organizations that come into stadiums and do shows about also selling beers at those events. And I have it on good authority. This is the test now in the era of house settlement for extra revenue through alcohol sales. I also have it from different Baylor alum and even people on staff there. It would be like the greatest tragedy in school history if they were to sell alcohol on the hallowed grounds. Only if you're rich, by the way. If you're rich, you can have it whenever you want.
Yeah, then we get it. Then we understand. Yeah.
I've had some of the best beers of my entire life in the Baylor Club. It feels good drinking a beer in McLean Stadium because you just feel rich. Like, this is how the other half lives.
Yeah, the 1%, man. It's like when I went to the Kentucky Derby. It's like, this is it, huh? This is how you do it.
Which is more accessible than you would think. You watch it on TV and you're like, wow, how did these people get the invite?
If you want to sit on the infield, you're fine, man.
Now, the Masters, that's a different, like, you got to know somebody, which, come to find out, I always thought that I moved to Georgia. I know at least 15 people that are, I got Masters passes. What? Want to go? Yeah, I do. It's really accessible if you live close. It's just like a good old boys thing.
Sounds like the best thing ever. I'm not a golf guy, but
yeah,
prices, not having your phone. Mm-hmm. They'll package everything up and send it to your address that you buy at the pro shop. Like that's America, baby.
That's Cape Cod baseball. That's what that is.
Cape Cod baseball, Chick-fil-A, the Masters, like all those things, they take care of you.
That's Chatham on the 4th of July. Firehouse out there, the truck revs up. Oh, nope, fog. Game is suspended. We can't play.
Chatham, the Freddie Prinze Jr. curse lives on.
Yeah, they're on like their third head coach in 3 years or something.
After having the same guy for like 30. Yeah. It's kind of like the Patriots.
It's kind of like Katuit.
We're on this.
It's like Katuit as well.
Former Wareham manager, Mike Roberts.
Future Wareham manager at this point. Like, somebody's got.
I'll take it. That guy knows how to get a tie, man. That guy knows how to manipulate the sunlight.
He does.
Ooh,
and
man.
He's Holiday. Tom Holiday, I think is who it was. Father of Matt.
Yes, that would make sense. He was around Chatham when Schiffner was there too.
Yeah, and they lost three. They went 3 years without making the playoffs, which is hard to do on Cape.
Yeah,
missing the playoffs.
2 teams in the whole league missed the playoffs.
2 of 10 miss. Yeah. 80% are going in. That's Cameron Stewart at Real Cam Stewart on Twitter. This has been Always Will Be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Yo sé grande in Baylor.